Happy to introduce today on behalf of Frontier Merchant Capital Group, Ian Graham, CEO of Montan Mining, a newcomer to the venture, not having listed too long ago, and quite an interesting story emerging here. A client of Frontier's, a client of ours, with some really interesting news coming out recently with the intent to purchase a toll mineral processing facility in southern Peru and nearby operating mines as well. In my opinion, looks really interesting and promising here, the way it's structured with the team, people coming together, the assets they're putting in place, true to their vision and everything they've said they're going to do to date, which always goes a long way, so well worth paying attention to. Ian, thanks for being here and joining me and others. Just like to invite you to take it away. Please, join us in introducing the story, introducing Montan, introducing the recent acquisition, and everything you have in store for the company as best you can.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm having a little bit of reception difficulty at this end, but I hope you're able to hear me. Thanks everybody, and thanks for joining us. Very, very pleased to be able to tell you about Montan from Lima, Peru. I've spent the last week here with Luis Zapata, our chairman, and I think in essence that the message from Montan is that we have a team of people who can execute on what I believe is a business plan of significance that offers shareholders protection from dilution over the long term, being that we are headed for cash flow as a mining company, centering initially on toll milling here in Peru, and in particular an acquisition that will deliver us a plant with 150 ton a day capacity. The plant is built, it is in operation, and simply requires scale up to the 150 ton per day capacity. The key to Montan being able to do that entirely revolves around our team, and we have Luis Zapata, the chairman, based here in Lima, of Peruvian descent, but raised in Canada, fluent in the Canadian capital markets. He established the Latin American trading desk for Canaccord here, has worked for Seminario, a brokerage here in Peru, and has since gone full-time as our chairman at Montan. He will be based in country and will be driving our initiatives directly on a day-to-day basis. I think the business plan is significant because it is a margin-based business, toll milling, that is somewhat insulated from fluctuations in commodity price, certainly more insulated than most other ventures in the mining business. And what we have here in Peru is a team assembling that will be able to execute the toll milling business and also improve on feed from a small high-grade mine that we're acquiring as part of our transaction. The business will be to seek ore feed from miners who are being formalized in the district. This is a rapidly moving process here in Peru, and will ensure that over the long term, ore feed is available for the plant. The key to the Peruvian business is the high-grade epithermal vein-type gold deposits that are mined by the informal sector and delivered in to mills in the district. there is a significant lack of existing mill capacity, and acquisition of Moyahuaca by Montan will lead us to be able to access that very significant volume of ore. We are presently on the ground in the district and building ore sourcing capacity with Montan personnel, and we're inheriting a very strong team at the plant and at the Aladium mine. I think my confidence in particular comes from our team's ability not just to hit the ground running in Peru, and we will do that thanks not only to Lewis, but also to Michel Robert, whose career in Peru began in 1984 when he was dispatched to Peru to commission the Tintaya mine. And since then, Michel has been active for other companies, Teck, and most notably Pan American Silver, in building mining ventures here in Peru. And the projects that he has established for those companies were all very influential in the build-outs of those companies. So Michel will be taking a direct role here in Peru to help us build the on-the-ground team and ensure that operations in Peru are built to excel. I think the other real confidence that I have comes from our ability to execute corporately in Canada, to market the company, and most particularly to finance Montan into production to ensure that it grows to a point where cash flows are sustaining for the business. And when that occurs, we provide to shareholders significant insulation from dilution, as we'll have optionality around returning to the market for financing. And our intention and our present focus is to build out a market and marketing team that ensures we can execute on this. I think 2015 has been exciting. We entered the year in the process of a qualifying transaction. We delivered that transaction in early March and came to trade. And in the period since commencing trading, we've made a binding agreement with Goldsmith and their subsidiaries to acquire the toll mill at Moyahuaca and also to acquire the mine at Aladium. We also have a prospective additional project that has come with the package. And this builds upon our long-term QT assets that came with the QT with Straight Minerals. I think our business is well set up. We have 20 million shares outstanding. We have no warrants and a very tight structure. I think we know where most of the shares are based. We have a very strong long-term shareholder base. They've been incredibly supportive and very communicative through our process, through our acquisition. And we look forward to rewarding them and driving Montan to increase value in the marketplace and to deliver an operating business of which we can all be proud. Chad, I think that's my initial introduction. Certainly would be interested in finding out from the viewership what sort of particular areas of what we're doing and what we're presently announcing they'd be most interested in.
Fair enough. Thanks for the intro, Ian. Question for sure off the top. Could you paint the portrait, a little more insight into what's actually happening in southern Peru as it relates to the small scale mining community, some of the other toll processors in the area, some of the social implications as it relates to small scale mining in Peru, and equally some of the initiatives from a federal level as it relates to formalizing, informal artisanal small-scale miners in the area?
Certainly, Chad. Thanks. Let's just begin with sort of the movement to formalization. It is very well supported by the government in Peru, and also supported by a number of the provinces. So in southern Peru in particular, the initiative is moving quickly. In the greater Chala area, there's very little agriculture, and the primary occupation of most of the people in the district is in fact related to servicing or undertaking informal mining. So there is no competition for the informal miners from other economic sectors. The informal miners are moving to formalization in order to improve health, safety, and access to wage equivalent incomes that allow them to participate more fully in the economy. And they drive and influence almost all of the settlements in the region. The government certainly is working hard, and a number of NGOs to help that formalization process, and they've certainly eased the process of formalization for the miners, making it a lot easier for people who are even perhaps have literacy challenges to formalize. And the process is going very well, and I think that the toll milling side of the equation has responded very well to that, with ore purchasing arrangements improving, and the toll mill is assisting informal miners to formalize. And so Goldsmith, from whom we're acquiring Moyawaka, has made some progress in that regard, and it was very I felt a lot of endorsement for what we plan to do, meeting some of the informal miners who are delivering ore to the plant over this past week. Certainly, we're changing livelihoods. In terms of other entities doing this in southern Peru, Inca One have I think done very well in terms of establishing their presence and interfacing with the communities in the region, and what we're seeing is strong endorsement from the people that we talk to for that process. Actually, presently, Lewis is unable to join us because he just left the office where I am, with a small group of informal miners from the Moyawaka district, and they're retiring for a short lunch to establish relationships and to improve our access for ore feed at Moyawaka as we plan to scale up. I think in the market, we've seen the market really appreciate the toll mill model. Inca One have done very well as we look at Dynacor, who are establishing themselves in the Chala area. They're in construction presently, a plant that will have a 350 ton per day capacity. But the market, I think, definitely appreciates what they have done, and Inca One has similarly performed very well as they grow their production in the Chala area, and we're seeing other Canadian entrants as well, also seeing market appreciation for the business model, which gives us an enormous amount of confidence for what we have in front of us, and I think our team's capacity to execute is going to deliver for shareholders, particularly existing and near-term shareholders with significant growth opportunities. The Montan business model will not end with the acquisition of Mayahuaca. We intend to build a significant cash flow business in Peru, but beginning with Mayahuaca, which is ideally scaled for our initial aims at 150 tons a day.
Thanks for the insight there. Another question here for you. Can you elaborate a little bit more on the nearby mines, the operating mines that are associated with this acquisition? For my part, looking at it, unclear as to any numbers, I guess, associated in your initial release, surely. In what respect are these all tied together? Are the informal miners feeding the toll facility originating from these properties in particular, or are these, you know, hard rock opportunities that your group is looking at to, you know, improve, I guess, the output yourselves? Or could you just kind of paint that portrait a little bit more on what's there, and then maybe also the game plan as it relates to maybe formalizing some of the numbers or maybe resources associated with those properties?
Certainly. Chad, in essence, we intend to source ore from third-party producers in the Chala Valley. Elladium sits in the adjacent valley, and we are sourcing ore from that mine, presently at a very low volume of ore. We intend to increase that. What it gives us is material that we will produce for our own consumption in addition to third-party feed, and we do intend to use Elladium to explore a little further and see if we can raise capacity through mining beyond just the current access at the mine itself. Production at the mine is quite low, rapidly scalable to around 10 tons a day, but that will give us about 7 or 8% of our plant capacity right away. We'll be looking for the balance from third-party suppliers, but certainly the model includes continuing to bring feed from properties that we may ourselves control over the long term, and Elladium is the springboard for that.
Interesting. I appreciate the insight there. Another question for you, and I'm not really sure to what extent you can elaborate on your pro forma projections related to cash flow. Anything you can really touch on there as it relates to ramping up, I mean, maybe current versus ramp up of the operation. And then equally, the question dovetails into your financing needs, which is natural. Maybe a bit of a strategy as it relates to that, your approach and what you really require to get going.
Thanks, Chad. On a pro forma basis and based on current feed grades, the plant is at a break-even level around 35 tons a day. Steady state feed to the plant presently is a little below that. So we need, as we assume operatorship late in the month, to take care of adding feed immediately. In terms of our sort of central case modeled EBITDA capacity for 2015, assuming we reach 150 tons a day by year end, we'll have established a year-on-year capacity for an EBITDA of about $7 million a year US. In terms of financing, Chad, at this point we're at an early stage in discussions with various parties, and we're formulating a financing strategy but we certainly will be making that widely known and public in the very near future. We are taking some input presently, though, from several interested parties, and so to really sketch out the financing plan and requirements in detail is difficult at this point. However, we'll be essentially looking for about $3 to $4 million US, 4 million Canadian in equity and debt to Montan. We're also presently discussing an ore purchasing debt facility with a couple of entities that provide those services here in Peru. So in essence, a financing package of $6 to $6.5 million, equity, convertible.
Ian, did we lose you there? You might have had a little bit of a pause on your end on the connection. Let's hang on. Ian, are you there?
Yes. Can you?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Sorry.
I wasn't sure if it was my side or your side, but you froze there for a minute in mid thought. So yeah, if you could maybe pick that thought up again and just kind of continue as it relates to you're mentioning a couple groups that you're speaking with, surely without being.
Right. So I'll rewind a little. I'm not quite sure where I lost you. So our financing needs, in brief, about $6 to $6.5 million, $2.5 million in a line of credit, effectively for ore purchasing, and we're in discussion with entities here in Peru presently to secure that the ore purchasing capacity. The other $4 million we intend to do in equity, private placement equity, and some convertible debt, and we're in discussion with various parties around modeling and deciding on that initiative. We will be traveling in Canada, the US, and Europe fairly extensively over the next few weeks.
Sounds good. Anything else? I guess all this said, I think it's painted a pretty good portrait here, and we've answered some key questions in relation to your strategy and the potential. Look, from my perspective personally, I'm a fan. I like the structure and the people and the project, and equally from my own standpoint, have experience looking at this model in Peru, in the north, several years ago, and yeah, and I like it, and certainly also really like the social angle related to this, given the just the health hazards and environmental hazards as it relates to just independent small scale and artisanal operations and mercury use and a number of these types of things. So really important. I think it really fits an interesting piece of business going forward for sure. I guess I just had another question to jump in here and ask. Let me throw that at you then. For those that are considering this, opportunity from their investment perspectives, for their own personal portfolios, what would be the impetus for them to get involved or consider Montan kind of at this stage of your growth? Then, if you could answer maybe that question.
Well, thanks for your comments, Chad, because I think the social aspect of the business is very compelling. I think the upliftment that we can provide, and that we certainly intend, to be a constructive corporate player in the Chala area. So, thanks for that observation. In terms of becoming involved with the Montan story, I think the time is now. We're a brand new company. We undertook to our seed shareholders that we would engage in acquiring a significant asset, one that fit our capacities well right away. I think we've done that. We certainly plan to aggressively market finance this company. We intend to have boots on the ground and accelerate Moyawaka and the Aladium mine through to their appropriate capacities quickly and efficiently, and I have every confidence in the Montan team that we will do that. That will be our focus. And I think the delta between our current valuation, which is probably perfectly appropriate for the early stage we're at, but in comparison with others who are pursuing business similar to ours, and particularly those who are currently in operation, there's a significant delta between our market capitalization and theirs. And so I believe that at some point we will be rated hopefully favorably in comparison with those operators, and certainly the very significant delta between our present valuation and that possible future valuation should be very compelling to investors. And we certainly won't stop when we hopefully draw level with our peer group. We intend to grow beyond that. So hopefully investors will join us now and remain engaged over the long term.
Thanks, Ian. A couple more questions for you, so I'm just going to throw them at you as they get a little maybe a little sharper in the tip of the spear. How many shares does management hold in the company currently?
We're presently a little over 10%.
Okay. And an equally follow up to that question is management participating in the next round? Is that the intention?
There will be some management participation. Yeah.
Yeah, great. All this said, anything else you'd like to add? Unless anything else comes in, any other questions? But we've covered a lot here thus far. Anything else you'd like to add beyond what you've already added on behalf of the company or the team or the projects, anything like this?
Just Chad, thanks for the opportunity to have done this. Really exciting. I think all I'd like to add is that I personally I'm so excited with what we're doing. The climate in the business over the last few years has been such that to have this opportunity and to be growing something in this environment, and to have had the support that we have had both in the marketplace among shareholders and here on the ground in Peru, just really has it's been a real bright spot for me and for all of the Montan team. We're excited. We're absolutely positive, and we're hitting the ground running. And we intend to work really hard. We've got a really compelling opportunity in front of us, and we intend to deliver it absolutely to the best of our capacity to do so.
It's great, Ian. I appreciate that. Well, that said, and with no other questions coming in right now, let me just wrap. Oh, here comes another question. Let me pass this question over to you. What's cash on hand? Current cash on hand for the company?
As of yesterday, cash on hand is 560,000 Canadian.
Okay.
We don't as yet have a significant demand on that here in Peru, but that will change in 3 weeks as we assume operatorship. So certainly our attention on treasury is is acute, and we intend to manage it very carefully, both in Canada, here in Peru, and to take care of the financing in the immediate term.
Right, and that's kind of a bit of the follow-up question, is when you intend to actually start executing on your next financing needs. So
no, it will be pretty well right away, Chad, and we really are in the course of this week. We'll be making some key decisions in relation to the financing.
Sounds good. Last call then before maybe I wrap it up for any other questions. If anyone has anything they'd like to submit for me there, maybe I just give a quick pause so those who may submit don't feel pressured typing too quickly. I type a little faster, but not everybody does, so we'll just give that a sec. But I don't see anything coming in just yet. Just getting thanks for the presentation for sure, Ian, and the Q&A from attendees. A really great overview of the company. Here we go again. Looks like we're still flowing, so I'm going to give everybody an opportunity if they have more questions to ask you, and I can wrap this up a little later when we're through this. It's a good question. How do you intend the languages deal with? I'll maybe adjust to maybe manage the challenges of working with a large number of small scale miners as opposed to maybe one streamlined operation, considering a number of these smaller independents are just that, maybe not organized, coordinated, or what have you. So
that is a great question, and I think the sort of perhaps slightly trite answer is to meet them where they're at, and so we've begun to do that. And I do apologize that Lewis couldn't join us, but as I indicated earlier, he's at lunch with a group of small miners from the Challa Valley, and already they've been making suggestions to us about how we can make ourselves a processor of choice, if you want, by interfacing with them and making their lives a little easier. But it does require a team of people undertaking the Acopia role, interfacing with the small miners, helping them in various ways, and sourcing ore over the long term. And really, it requires a team of people who are out in the mineral fields and interfacing with the miners. If I may say, that's perhaps a capacity that the plant, as we acquire it, has not invested in. Montan has already begun to build a team, and the first of that team started work with us last week on Wednesday, and we were in the field with him on Thursday and Friday, and others will be joining. So there is a careful selection process on those people, and the first two have worked previously in the business, and both of them have worked previously in the Challa and adjacent valleys. So, but it is a great question, because it's the heart of our business model. In a sense, we won't have picks and shovels at a working face. We will have, it's a people business. We'll be interfacing with the people who mine the ore in order to source it. So actually a critical question, and I apologize for not addressing that earlier. We will have a significant Acopia team, and we're building it already.
follow-up question in that respect, zoning in a bit on this relationship between the small-scale independent and artisanal miners and your operations. What is the process and what is the intention, I guess, for Montan as it relates to paying the miners for their ore? As far as I understand it, here I come with my ore. So you're going to process, you're going to calculate recoverables. There's going to be some form of margin associated with the activity and the recoveries. Can you drill in a little bit insofar as it doesn't compromise any of your own, I guess, maybe proprietary approaches or internal approaches, but how you intend to navigate or operate on that aspect of the business?
Absolutely. So, Chad, the key is to treat informal miners with respect, offer them all the help you can, in particular in areas like transportation of ore, perhaps accommodation, etc. The big key is that they are paid quickly, and we've certainly seen the Canadian public companies in this space do very well and set, I think, a solid standard, which we intend to meet and comply with in a very similar way. Certainly that has been one of the aspects that motivates the Peruvian and provincial governments to have transparent Canadian public companies in this space. So the key is pay quickly. What occurs is material is delivered to a collection point. In our case, that's located at the plant. It is weighed in. The ore is immediately coarse crushed. A sampling process is followed. Ore is collected, a representative sample. That sample is then effectively coned down to a significantly smaller sample. That's done with the miner looking on to the process essentially from a window on the splitting area. The material is immediately taken into an on-site assay lab, and essentially the gold grade is determined through a standard gravimetric fire assay method. Once established, the miner is paid against the market spot price of gold, a proportion of that price. Our present payment system requires, I think, some improvement, because presently some of those payments are made in cash. We look forward to a situation where it is all done indirectly into bank accounts, and we intend to help establish those processes for informal miners. But the key is to pay quickly and to be open, honest, transparent in the assay process. And we intend to do that, and we're well established at the plant already in that regard. But we'll bring hopefully a few more efficiencies. But a critical aspect of the business is having operating cash on hand within the business to pay immediately for ore when it is purchased. And being able to do that over a 48-hour period from delivery is the most desirable situation.
Thanks. It's really interesting. I appreciate kind of the deeper insight. I'm sure everybody does into some of these aspects of the business. Another question for you, and I'll flow with it for maybe just a few more minutes if I keep getting questions coming in, Ian, if that's okay with you. The question is there several toll miners in the area? Any competitive fears about price competition or payment competition to attract miners in the area to work with you versus other players?
Again, Chad, a fantastic question, and really a key for the business model. I think there may in time evolve some competition. Competition is never a bad thing, and in fact, I welcome it, I guess. There are a huge number of people in the formalization process. There are 13,000 applications in the greater Arequipa area. So largely centered on Chalo. So there is a very, very large amount of ore available, and certainly more than the current plants and planned plants could handle, given the present capacity. So I think we're quite a long way from any sort of critical competition. I think the business presently has a solid margin while still offering the miners an opportunity at a very much improved standard of living. And so I don't believe there's a near-term critical threshold of competition arising. Also, some of the plants that
Ian, I think you froze there. I'm not sure that was me, so I'm just jumping in to check. It might be my side. Let's just, oh, you're there again. Was that my side, Ian, that was freezing up, or, well, it's hard to say, but just doubling there, right where you were jumping up saying some of the other processors, facilities, companies was where I lost you, so.
Okay, so presently there are a number of mooted operations, but some of those will be some period of time coming into production, and our plan is to establish ourselves as a processor of choice while that continues. So I think our timing is good, and 2015 offers us an opportunity to really establish ourselves as a group that informal miners would like to deal with.
Fair enough. And one last question here, and it's been noted from a line of questioning that's been coming to you here that this would be the last one, and a great flow of questions I really appreciate. So thanks for these. And, playing devil's advocate on the story, I really like it. Why is the seller of the facility a seller? If this is a promising, scalable, cash flow generating business, why would somebody want to let that go is the question essentially, and I look forward to the answer. Ian.
No, absolutely. It's a great question. In essence, the group selling will become a significant shareholder of Montan, and essentially they're Australia-based, and I guess had some challenges building a critical mass here in Peru, but most particularly had cash issues around building the company to a point where they could afford a significant ore purchase budget. So what has held Moyawaka back is the inability to purchase ore in significant volume and to build the Acopia team. And so that's why it's critical for us to establish that line of credit facility and to adequately capitalize Montan in the near term. That is absolutely the key to execution for us, and that's why, and the reason I'm confident that we can assume this asset, reward the Goldsmith guys who will become the largest shareholder in Montan for giving us this opportunity, is that we can, I think, be more effective by being a public company, sourcing our liquidity in the public markets in the immediate term. And then we have the Peruvian experience and the Peruvian presence to execute on the ground. Quite honestly, Chad, we're thrilled to be able to make this acquisition, and in particular because it means Montan can execute its business plan immediately, and so, you know, just feel exceedingly fortunate, in fact, to have been able to source the opportunity and to have such a good relationship with the Goldsmith guys so quickly, and to effect our transaction. In effect, the letter agreement took a little over a week, and we'll be executing the definitive pretty well on time, I believe.
Nice. It sounds good, Ian. I appreciate all the insight and your time today, as I'm sure everyone who's here listening in does as well. Some excellent questions, a lot of interest, obviously, in the model and the company. For all the things we should say and that were said today, you know, Montan Mining is a Frontier Merchant Capital Group client, of which I'm part. I'm a shareholder as much as, I won't say as much as, but I am a shareholder, as is the Frontier Merchant Capital Group in the venture, and we're fans and supporters of what you guys are doing for sure. Looking to leverage, you know, modern techniques and technologies to help introduce your story to those that may be interested in what you're up to, among other clients of ours as well, for sure. And as appropriate for all regulatory purposes, at least at this point, I'll verbalize a bit of a disclaimer that beyond what I've already said, you know, this presentation could contain forward-looking statements that are subject to certain risks that are equally outside of the control of the company, including commodity prices, access to financing, in this case, the willingness or not of small-scale or informal miners to show up at the facility, and, you know, other factors that are natural and normal as it pertains to earlier stage small cap, micro cap companies. So that said, Ian, a final thank you for your time today. Look forward to following up with you soon about the progress of the company, and anyone else who has any further questions about Montan and their activities, operations, financing strategies, and the like, can certainly contact us at Frontier or direct Ian as well, and I'm sure you'd be happy to chat more about everything they're up to. So thanks again, Ian. Wish you a great day there, and thanks to everyone else who's attended, and we'll talk to everybody soon.
Thanks very much, Chad. And now that we've had a first go at the format, you know, look forward to follow up, and we'll be prepared. I've enjoyed this enormously. Thank you.
Right on. You bet. No problem. We'll chat with you soon, Ian. Thanks a lot.